Hey everyone, political parties and lawmaking. In this lesson, we're going to look at political parties, what they are, what they have to do with you, and what they have to do with lawmaking in the United States. Our objectives: you're going to be able to describe the two-party political system, explain what parties make up, which mean what they look like. You'll be able to evaluate the role of political parties in the law-making process. So this is all a fancy way of saying that by the end of this lesson, you're going to be able to tell me what a political party is, what they do, and what they have to do with the law-making process that we've been learning about in the United States. So you've heard of these things, I bet. I bet you've heard of political parties before. You just might know them by some different names. Political parties are groups of people who usually have the same ideas about a lot of things. They might see eye to eye on how people should be educated. They might see eye to eye on which parts of the government should get the most funding or the most money. They might see eye to eye on new ideas for laws. They're usually committed to common goals. There's things that each political party is trying to get done. They're trying to get people elected to office. The big ones are Democrats and Republicans. So one of the goals of the Democratic Party is to get other Democrats elected to office. Remember, elected to office means that you get to be a part of the government. You get to be a member of the government. And Republicans do the same thing. They try and get Republicans elected to office. And if people from their parties actually get elected, then it's their job to try and get laws passed that go with what that party thinks. So if the Democratic Party decides that they think schools should get more money, then the Democrats that are actually in office will try and get a law passed that gives more money to schools. So how do we do it in the United States? A lot of countries around the world use political parties. Most countries, in fact. In the United States, we have what's called a two-party system, which means there's two major parties, two that are usually trying to get elected into office. It's the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. We have other parties. They're called minor parties or third parties. Some of them are listed on the screen that you see there. So how come you don't hear about them as much? Because they're not as powerful. They're not as influential either. The two big ones have the most members. Therefore, most people vote for either Democratic or Republican. There have been times where people from other parties have won elections, but for the most part, Democrats and Republicans in our society today, they're the ones that usually get elected into office. So how are these two parties similar? Well, they all believe in some of the basic things that America stands for. They both believe in personal rights and freedoms for people. They both think that everyone should have an educational opportunity. They both think that people should have economic opportunities. They both think that it's important for us all to protect the United States. They both think that preserving the environment is important, and they both are trying to help citizens. What makes them different then if they see eye to eye on all of these things? How to go about doing all of these things is where they're different. Let's give you some examples. How much government should play a role in the economy? Democrats tend to think that the government should have a very big role in how the government handles the economy, and Republicans kind of think the government should step back a little bit. There's another example. When it comes to, let's say, poor people in the United States, or people who aren't doing as well, the Democrats tend to think that you should directly help those people. You should directly help them with things like Social Security and welfare and WIC checks and things like that. Republicans tend to think a little bit different. They're not against those programs, but they think it's more important to improve the economy as a whole. Then it's easier for people that are in those positions to get jobs and improve their economic situation and earn more money. So Democrats are more about directly helping people with some of those programs that I talked about, and Republicans think that you should help the economy first, and that will in turn help the people that need the help, because then it'll be easier for them to get a job. What do they have to do with lawmaking? If somebody from a political party gets elected, usually they tend to vote along the same lines as the rest of their party. So that big process with how a bill becomes a law that we've been looking at. Usually when it gets to that part where they all vote, usually, not always, they don't have to, but usually the Democrats are all going to vote one way and the Republicans are all going to vote another way. That's usually what happens. Does it always happen? No. Some Democrats and some Republicans go against their party and vote the other way, and they're allowed to do that. But usually they vote pretty close to what the rest of their party does. And what does that have to do with you? Well, when you register to vote, when you're 18 years old, they'll ask you which political party you're a part of. You can pick Democrat, you can pick Republican, you can pick independent, which means you don't have to say that you're a political party, or you can pick one of the many third parties that we have in the United States. And there's some advantages and disadvantages to saying which party you are, but that's completely up to you. Even if you register as a Democrat, you can still vote for Republicans. It's not anything that's like set in stone. It's just what you're registered as. So a lot of times people will end up voting for a person based on their political party. Those political parties help us kind of understand a little bit more about the candidates. If you're somebody that tends to agree a little bit more with Democrats, and you see that somebody in an election is a Democrat, that's probably the person that you're going to end up voting for. You should still do your research on that person before you vote for them, but it gives you more of an idea of what that person stands for. If they say they're a Democrat, you know they probably think like a lot of other Democrats. If they're a Republican, they probably think like a lot of other Republicans. Now, the big thing about political parties is whoever controls Congress, Democrats or Republicans, they tend to control the laws that get made. So, for example, if there's more Republicans in Congress than Democrats, then it's going to be a lot easier for Republicans to get laws passed, and vice versa as well. So let's say there's 55% of Congress are Republicans and 45% are Democrats. It's going to be a lot easier for the Republicans to get the votes that they need to get laws passed because they have more people, they have more votes. They have more power in Congress. They have more people sticking up for them. If the Democrats have less, it's going to be a lot harder for them to get the votes that they need to pass laws. So that's something to consider when you're making decisions during elections. So as always, join us for class on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you have any questions or you need help, just contact me. My information is right there. If not, good luck.